And welcome back to the Louisville Thoroughbred Society here in downtown Louisville, Kentucky, as we are leading up to the Kentucky Derby. This is Blowin Smoke, and today I'm blowing smoke with Jayson Werth, former Major League Baseball All-Star, World Series champion, and now 2 for 2 in the last 2 years of qualifying horses to the Kentucky Derby. Welcome, my friend.
Yeah, wow, thanks for having me. Crazy to even think about.
So, we're going to light the cigars in a second, but the first thing I want to call you out on is because I just finished Race for the Crown last night, which was a great show on Netflix, and I think it got up to number 5 this week as far as things streaming on Netflix. You kept saying, this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing with Dornick. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
It's true.
And you're back the next year with Flying Mohawk.
Look, so when I said that with Dornick last year, I meant it. It was real. It was once in a lifetime, and I didn't have a horse that was ever going to run in the Derby. So that was factual. But Whit Beckman threw me a little curveball, and over the winter he devised this plan to. Mohawk was doing just so good. He put this plan together to run him in the Jeff Ruby, and he thought he set up good. I guess Kirakannis are running good on the synthetic, and I'm still so new to horse racing that it takes me a minute to like really grasp what people are saying and what they're trying to accomplish. So I was like, great, that sounds amazing. A $750,000 purse, like, grade 2. Like, all right. We took a shot in the fall with him at the race at Aqueduct. There was a Breeders' Cup Challenge race where if he would have ran third, he would have been in the Breeders' Cup, and he ran 5th by like a nose.
Yeah.
And so his next race, he ran at Churchill, and he won by like 6 or 7 lengths, and that would have been his Breeders' Cup race.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you never know how good these horses are, right? I mean,
No.
it's hard to say, especially when they're young. But that was when it was kind of like, all right, this dude's, he's good. Like we got a horse here. And so when Whit told me that about the Ruby, I was like, all right, that sounds great. We'll run him another grade 2, big purse. I get off the phone and I look up the Jeff Ruby, and it's like it's a Derby prep race.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I call him back. I'm like, yo, that's a Derby prep race. Like, what are you thinking? He's like, oh, we'll probably run him in the American Turf Classic if he, depending on how he does, on Derby Day. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Like still not really getting what he's trying to do. And so he runs in the Ruby. He runs second. At that point, obviously, we're all geared up. If he runs first or second, we're going to be in the Kentucky Derby. Like, at least we'll have the points for it.
Yeah.
So we run second, and I don't know if you saw the clip on some of our social media, but we acted like we won.
Yeah.
And
as you should have.
As we should have. And in fact, one of the ladies that was for the connections of Final Gambit was walking down the steps to the winner's circle, and so were we.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah, let's go to the winner's circle. We're finishing second. Why wouldn't we?
And she looked over to Kyle Zorn, and he was walking down with us, and she's like, excuse me, did we win? I thought we won. Did I get something? And she's like, he's like, no, ma'am, you guys won, but we ran second, and we have enough points for the Derby or whatever. So she's like, oh, okay. So then we go down and we go next to the winner's circle, and we created our like second place winner's circle.
the silver medal podium.
Yeah, and then Jeff Ruby comes over and he's got the rose or the flowers over him.
Yeah.
And takes a picture with us. And look, it's one of those things where we never really. That was not what those were not our intentions with this horse.
Yeah.
Like, we thought we were going to run it like, I had aspirations of running it like Kentucky Downs, Saratoga, hanging out in Nashville, going up to Kentucky Downs to watch them run. I bought 2 horses that year. They were both turf horses. One's Insubordination and one's Flying Mohawk. And Insubordination runs Saturday at Gulfstream in the Stake, and we're running Flying Mohawk in the Kentucky Derby. And it's just wild. But to get back to the story, so after he runs second, and I'm like Whit, like, what are you thinking? He's like, let's give him a week, see how he does, and so week goes by, and he comes out of the race great, and like he always does, and I'm like, Whit, so like, what are you thinking? He's like, well, we can get him over to Churchill and see how he likes the dirt, and make sure that we're doing the right thing. We can always run him in the American Turf Classic, and like, all right, like, So we get him over there, and he has his first workout, and I was like, "What are you thinking?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I was always thinking we were going to run in the Derby." There was never a doubt in his mind. But he strung me along a little bit, and you know, the thing with Whit is he's totally transparent. He tells you he kind of tells you everything. He's real straightforward, right? He doesn't pull any punches. So I was kind of like hanging on every word, you know, to be like, okay, you know, I'm telling people, yeah, we might run here or there.
Yeah.
But no, the whole time he had this plan worked out from the beginning. And
brilliant.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Here we are, and look, I think he's working on the dirt good, and you know, once you get into this race, anything can happen.
Well, getting to the race is a victory. Just to be one of the 20 in the starting gate. So let's light the pre-victory cigar.
The pre-victory cigar.
I'm going to have David Savona, my good friend. He's the editor-in-chief of Cigar Aficionado. He's one of the most well-known cigar aficionados in the world, and he's going to tell us exactly what we're smoking today.
The Oliva Serie V Melanio Maduro. It's what I'm smoking right now. All Melanios are rare. Melanio Maduros are exceptionally rare. So Oliva Cigar Company has become known for making some of the highest rated cigars on the pages of Cigar Aficionado magazine. Matter of fact, one of their cigars in our top 10 this year and our highest ranked cigars of the year. So what makes the Melanio Maduro special? It's the wrapper. So all Oliva cigars are made with a core of Nicaraguan tobaccos. The company grows its tobacco in Nicaragua. The company makes its cigars in Nicaragua. Melanio Maduros have a Maduro wrapper grown in the San Andres Valley of Mexico. It's a volcanic region. It's incredibly fertile soil. That combination of Mexican wrapper, Nicaraguan insides makes for an unforgettable smoke. This is an award-winning cigar. We always score it in the 90s, sometimes in the high 90s. Think about a lot of minerality, medium body, maybe medium plus. Got a little kick to it. Delicious cigar. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. I'll be smoking this for a while.
Easy there, killer.
I typically only smoke crack, so this is a little different. Thanks.
Keep that part in the show. Okay, so from crack to the next topic of conversation. I want to. I mean, horse racing is like crack because this is, like you said, you were new to it. The Race to the Crown series, I know, is something that you had a lot of fun being a part of, and they had a great amount of access, and they showed about this. But I think more so than anybody else, you really showed how addictive this game can be, and I want you to talk about that feeling for you. You touch on how it replaced the competitive nature of baseball, because you've been playing sports your entire life and at the highest level, and when that goes away, it's gone, and it's not coming back in that form, but it came back to you in horse racing. How do the two forms of competition compare?
Yeah, so I didn't really play any golf when I played baseball. I played no golf from like age 20 to 40, then I retired. I moved to Florida, and what do you do in Florida? You retire and play golf. So I joined the country club, and I started playing, in the Tuesday night men's league or whatever, and they'd come in and, I guess it wasn't a Tuesday night league. It was like the Tuesday league. It was during the day, and they'd come in, they'd turn on the FanDuel and get the races going, and I'm like, I have no idea about horse racing. I'm like, is this like the rerun of the Kentucky Derby, or what do you guys what are you guys watching? Like, no, dude, this is Rich has got the 8 here at Tampa.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean he's got the 8? Like, he owns the 8? He's like, yeah, he owns the 8. I'm like, how do you own the 8? I'm like, I'm intrigued. And then they win, and they all freak out. I'm like, well, this looks like a blast.
Yeah.
So over the course of the next year, I started hanging out with these guys playing golf, and that's how I got into horse racing. I was like, all right. So Rich Averill owned a bunch of Florida breds, and
yeah, we're very familiar with him.
Got me into it and kind of showed me the ropes, and then we got into some good fillies. Our Callie Kim and our Adios Jersey, our Harper Rose. Rich's horses all start with R.
Yeah.
So I got into that, and then that got me going. He got me going to the Keeneland sale in the fall, and that's where I ran into Danny Gargan at the bar and bought a little piece of the horse named Dornick.
That's and he came up to you, right? 'Cause they said he came up to you and said, "We need someone like you in on this horse." He knew what he was buying at that point. I mean, there's a high miss rate, but he knew he had a special animal.
Jesus.
I know there's a the forklift is the third star of this show, by the way. This thing's been. The Louisville Thoroughbred Society was kind enough to let us use the cigar lounge on one of their closed days.
It's not every day you get a forklift.
It's the first time I've had an interview interrupted by a forklift. I hope it's the last, but you never know.
Oh, there it goes. They finally got it off there.
No, it's good. It's good.
So the funny thing about that whole deal with Danny is, like, I did, you know, at the time don't know many people in horse racing. So when I walked into the bar, I was like, you know, I looked left, I looked right, and I was like, oh, those guys, you know, Connor Foley and Danny and that whole crew. So I go over there and start talking to these guys, and Danny, you know, comes over, and I'm like, hey, did you guys get anything? Yeah, we got a you know, good colt, whatever. I'm like, I'm doing this thing with Rich with the fillies, and he's like, that's all right. He's like, but you know, you want to you know, check out the Derby Dream, you know, you want to, you know, get in on that. He's like, get in on this horse and chase you know, whatever it's called. What do you chase? You chase the Dream, you chase the Derby, or
Yeah.
whatever the hell he said. I mean, looking back, like, he was so full of shit. You know, and he was definitely just selling me. But he was right. Like, if the horse turned out to be anything, it would be fun to have me involved. And and I didn't know what I was getting myself into, really. I'm still so new to the game. But you know, he had this vision on this horse, and had this dream of what it could be, and wanted me in on it. And literally, it turned out to be
Exactly what he said.
exactly what he said. So, you know, I give Danny a lot of credit. He was right.
So you took a keen interest in the athlete, which is the horse, and they cover that in the movie, in the Netflix series. What they didn't talk about is, do you have a keen interest with the jockeys? Because they're the human athlete of this equation.
Of course, and I think they are also very overlooked.
Yeah.
And underrated and undervalued. I've gone into their clubhouse a few times, and like, I feel at home in there.
Right.
Like, that's like, I was like, I've spent all this time in clubhouses, and so I do get their kind of side of it as well. And those guys are incredible athletes. I mean, it's remarkable what they do, and you know, to go out there and basically risk your life every race. You know, there's
as an athlete, you risk your livelihood, you risk your injuries, but you're never really risking your life in a baseball game. They have an ambulance chasing them around the track.
I
It's
mean,
a different world.
there is an aspect of it, like, you could get hit in the head. Accidents do happen, and you know, fatalities maybe not in baseball, but there's been some people that have gotten paralyzed, and you know, some bad things have happened, but not to the extent that the jockeys, you know, risk their lives. But I think any athlete, you know, NFL has their risks, and as an athlete, that's not something that you think about.
Right.
You're doing your job. But I think in the back of your mind, that's probably always something that's there, especially for a jockey. I mean, they have, like they say in the documentary, they have an ambulance chasing them. They're going 40 miles an hour. I mean, it's compelling stuff, right?
Right.
But again, and I think that's one thing that this sport, there's a lot of stigmas that the sport has overcome. I still think they got a long way to go still on kind of managing that stuff.
Yeah.
But I have been at the races in a day where there was a bad accident. Jockeys went down. You know, a horse lost his life, and it was tough.
Yeah.
You know, and it's wild. But I'm so new to this. I don't know what the answer is. Like, what's the right way to do this? But I do think the sport is amazing, and it's come a long way. And the old stigmas really aren't there.
Well, and through your podcast, and I've listened to a few of your episodes recently leading up to this interview, you sound like a racing evangelical. Like, you really do want everyone to jump in this game. And you go a mile a minute, and you keep blurting out other things that are great about the sport. But if you had to narrow it down to one or two things, what are the one or two things that you find most attractive, that you feel like you could sell to the public out there that might be a baseball fan or something like that?
So and that's you're spot on, because when I bring people to the track, that's what they get out of it, and it's the excitement, the nerves, the anxiety, and then like just the adrenaline of a race. So like as a retired athlete, when it's all over and done with, you're left with this huge void that you don't even realize exists.
Yeah.
And then you go to the track, and you go to a horse race, and all of a sudden it's like you get all those feels again. You get the pregame jitters, the agony of defeat, and the what's the thing?
Thrill of victory.
Yeah. You get the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. You get the pre and post game stuff. You get the race while it's going on, like the excitement of that. And I think for retired athletes, like that's something that you did every day. That's something that you poured your whole life, your heart and soul into your sport, which became a job. And then at some point it's over. But for anybody that played sports, whether it was high school or college or rec league or whatever, there's still an aspect of it when you stop playing that you don't really get that stuff. And horse racing offers all of that, and to anybody. But I think especially for the retired athletes, it's just such a cool thing to be a part of, and you kind of get all those feels that you don't get any other place.
So I've heard professional athletes in various sports say this, and I played in the horse racing game slightly. I own some horses through partnerships and whatnot, but what they say is that through the highs and lows, the highs are never as high as the lows are low, and there's oftentimes more lows than highs. And I feel like in horse racing, it hasn't been your experience 2 for 2 getting to the Derby, but in horse racing more so than any other sport. I mean, you even mentioned the fact, I think it was you that said it in the race for the crown, that there's 20,000 horses born every year, only 20 of them make the Derby.
Yeah.
And there's guys like Lonnie Briley. He's in his mid 70s. He's been doing this his entire life. This is his first trip to the Derby with Coal Battle.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. What's the answer? Anyway.
Well, no, just as far as you've experienced this game at the highest level with success,
Sure.
right? The highs of winning the Belmont, but there's more lows than highs in this game.
I would agree with you. I think I see a lot of parallels between what I did playing baseball and horse racing, though. If you hit 300, you're like, you're an all-star.
Right.
If you win 30% of your races, you're an
great.
all-star.
Yeah.
You're legendary. So there is a lot of those parallels. There's, and I think that maybe that's why this game makes a lot of sense to me, because you got to be able to handle the lows, and you got to be able to handle the defeats. And I always looked at my baseball career as like I always tell people I got paid to forget.
Right.
Like 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, going up to face the closer in the 9th. I mean, my mindset was I'm the baddest dude on the field. Like I'm the best player of all time. Like, or I'm going to go out there and get I'm going to win the game.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about the 0 for 4 with 4 punch outs.
Yeah.
So maybe this game's a little bit more fitting for people that have had played sports and handled what do you got to handle?
I don't know. What do you got to handle?
My fucking brain's a little mush today.
It's been a long week, but I will say this: as far as handling like having
adversity, you got to
adversity.
handle adversity.
So speaking of adversity, you told this story on the podcast the other day, and I want you to go back to it because I just saw it. I don't know if it was the other day. I just saw it on social the other day though. The Kiss My Ass story, and Dusty Baker, and tell us that story and what the origin of that was, because
this is a great story. And I've been waiting to get either Dusty or Max Scherzer on our podcast to tell the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I won't give you everything. I'll tell you what I told the guys the other day. So I think it was one of my last years in Washington. I was an older player, 35, 36, 37, a dinosaur basically at that point in my career. And I started slow. I was never really a fast starter anyways. I was only an all-star one time, and I think I was top 20 in MVP voting like 6 times.
Yeah.
So like I was definitely a second half player. So that wasn't abnormal for me to start slow, but I was more slow than I usually started.
Kind of like a Jock Peterson start.
Yeah, it was almost to the point where it was unrecoverable. Like
Yeah.
my season is almost lost. And Dusty calls me in, and I have to go back and look at the dates, but it's like it's May, and I'm still sucking. And he calls me in, and he's like, "Look, man, the owners want to release you, and no one wants to hear that your boss wants to fire you or get rid of you or whatever." And so I'm like, basically like, "Fuck you, man," like.
Yeah.
So it pissed me off, and we have this kind of conversation. And he's like, "Look, I'm on your side. Don't kill the messenger, but." He's like, I can protect you, but I can't protect you for too long. Like, you got to get it going. I'm like, I know I got to get it going. He's like, I told them, we got that long West Coast trip, and before we leave, if that's the last day of the series, before we head out west, if you don't have it going by then they can do whatever you want to you. But that's the day.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'll have it going by then, no doubt. And so I get it rolling, I get it going. And we had this long homestand, and we start firing, we start winning games. I had a walk-off hit against the Phillies in the first series, and then I walk off the Cubs, and at the last day, on the day of the Dusty said I had to have it going. But in the morning, I'm getting dressed in my locker, and I'm like tying my shoes, and we usually have the radio or something playing in the clubhouse. Like there's always something on, and that day they had the local radio show, and I'm leaning down tying my shoes, and it comes on. I was like, "We'd like to wish Dusty Baker a happy birthday."
Oh.
And I was like, and I stopped, and I was like, "That son of a bitch, like that no good, dirty motherfucker, like this is a setup."
Yeah.
He set this whole thing up. This is, and like, what a scumbag. Like, this is his birthday present to himself.
Yeah.
Like, he's like relishing in the fact, because he believed in me. Like, he was my guy. He knew I was gonna have it going. So he's like, I'm gonna give myself an early birthday present, and that's gonna be the day that, J-Dub's gonna have it going. He's like, I just know how his mind works, And at that point, I was rolling, like, no way they're gonna release me. I was playing good, and never a doubt. But the walk-off was like icing on the cake. So I think like there was something else going on. Was that the day I was like, I don't know, maybe my back was a little blown up, and I was maybe like slightly medicated.
Yeah.
That's part of the story that I was going to save for the save for a podcast. Or maybe when Dusty was on there. So so the game just, and that's how baseball works sometimes. It's just like these things just happen for some reason, and so here I am, like, tie game, bottom of the ninth, guy on first, and hit that ball off the wall. I thought it was a homer, but it like hit off the top of the wall, so I didn't really run, so I ended up on first. But Mikey Taylor scores. We walk him off. We run in the outfield. We go crazy, and I come back in. And there's Dusty. Like he's by first base, and he's looking at me. He's like he's got this, like he ate the canary or something. He's got this shit-eating grin on his face. And he's clapping. And he's like, come here. And I went and grabbed him and gave him a hug. I'm like, happy birthday, motherfucker! And then it's like, we're kind of fired up. That got me going with Dusty. He was like, hey, man, whatever he said, like, I believe in you. Gave me a little pep talk. And then here comes Dan Coco, like the on-field, TV guy, and he shoved a mic in my face, probably at the right or the wrong time,
Right.
however you want to look at it. But what I think he said, what do you have to say to your critics? And part of it was like, that was the day the owners were going to release me.
Yeah.
So and then, when you get older, people like they love to talk shit, and it's an easy target.
Yeah, rip the old guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just came naturally. What do you got to say to your critics? Those people can kiss my ass, and I mean,
it's a great clip too, because where I thought they spliced in the interview, right, where you're yelling and you're pointing to the whole crowd, you're saying kiss my ass.
Well, it was kind of mostly like because the press box is way up top at that stadium, so I was basically pointing at those the reporters up there that had been running their mouths all summer. So that was a good moment for us. We I had good times in Washington. Dusty Baker was he's a good friend and one of my favorite managers.
And so you lose your mind a little bit there. You lose your mind even more when Dornick wins the Belmont. And not only the Belmont, but the craziest Belmont because it's at Saratoga,
Yeah.
but they never run it there. They capture it great in Race for the Crown. Talk about that moment to me and just tell me like what that was like, because you had a disappointing run in the Derby, you'd taken the break, skipping the Preakness, and you come back in the Belmont, and you guys were odds, right? You were like 17-1 or something like that?
Second longest long shot.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where like he felt a little bit like, you know, the industry had overlooked him.
Yeah.
You know, because at one point in time over the winter he was like the favorite. You know, in those early odds things they do. And,
Yeah.
you know, he goes into the Fountain of Youth and kind of, you know, didn't run a big number, but he won easy. You know, he's just kind of those guys. He just runs in front of the pack, and he ran as good as he needed to off a layoff. But you know, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about him after he ran 10th in the Derby. But he got the one post. You know, he got a shitty draw. There was never he was never in the race. Like that race was over before it started. In fact, you know, that was what's so great about last night. Like, I don't think it mattered. It didn't matter where Mohawk drew.
Right.
You know, because he's not that type of runner. You know, Dornick needs to be on the lead or stalking, you know, up front, and he's never really had traffic to deal with. So it wasn't set up. So when they ran by the one post, it was like, oh, this race is over.
Yeah.
You know, so going to the Belmont, I was like, you know, I still thought he was live. He was training great. He's an awesome guy, you know, and like, so we believed in him. I bet him like he was the favorite.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, you guys had healthy wagers on it. They covered that as well in the show.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I saw a lot of parallels between me and Dornick because, like, I had some injuries and some like misfortune early in my career that like where I really only had like kind of a really small window to get a chance to do what I did. And in 2007, the GM for the Phillies, who drafted me originally, Pat Gillick, two guys got hurt at the deadline, and it was August 1st, and he gave me an opportunity, but he called me into his office and he told me, like, this is your last chance in baseball.
Yeah.
I'm giving you your last chance. And opportunities, you know, in baseball, they don't come around.
Yeah.
So, you know, I ended up hitting like 414 in August. We run down the Mets in 07, you know, win a World Series, run down the Mets in 08, win a World Series, and then, you know, I don't come off the field for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, so that was my chance. But with Dornick, it felt like going to the Belmont, like, this is it, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you don't win this, you know, it's all lost. Like,
right.
You'll never be a stallion. You know, who knows where you go from here? Like, you know, all of our hopes and dreams, like you say, like there's a lot of, you know, misfortune and defeat in the game. So, you know, it was at 17-1, the long shot in the field. This is your last chance.
Yeah.
And I gave him a little pep talk in the barn a couple days before the Belmont. I told him a story about what my GM told me, and basically told him the same thing. Like, this is your last chance in horse racing. And he, like, you know, he always wants to bite you. You know? So I grabbed onto his rein and like bopped him on the nose. He didn't like it. He got mad. He was all going crazy. But I'm like, let's go, dude. Let's, you know, this is it. You know. And so, like, I think what was captured in the race for the crown, that excitement at the Belmont, it was all that built up into that moment. You know, this is our last chance. This is his last chance. Longest long shot. All the money we bet. You know, everything was just a culmination. But that's what I tell people. This is what's so exciting about horse racing.
Yeah.
When you do hit, when you do win, there's nothing that compares to it. It's like winning a World Series.
So your outreach now to outside the industry, bring people in. You're wearing the hat, Icon Racing.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Icon Racing for the people watching who don't know. What is Icon Racing? Where did you get the idea, and how did the idea germinate, and how's it going, and how has the outreach for owners and get people involved been?
So first time, so after the Derby, I kind of had this idea. And then when he didn't do anything in the Derby, it was kind of like, all right, that was a dumb idea. Like, let's go do something else. You know, what was the one that Rapoli said after he lost that one race? I'm going to go buy a yacht.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go buy a skiff or something.
Yeah.
But
he's got a couple dollars.
Yeah. So it's not the same, but
Yeah.
you kind of get the sense of, like, when you lose, it's like all is lost. So. It wasn't until after the Belmont that I was like, all right, I'm back on this idea.
Yeah.
and my partner Ken Kuykendall, he's been in the sport for a long time. He's had different syndicates and partnerships he's worked on. Him and I got together at Saratoga after the Belmont, and we started working through this idea of icon racing. And basically, it's to bring new owners into the sport and experience what a great sport it is and how much fun it can be. But the tough part about horse racing is there's all these barriers to entry. Like, it's a really hard sport to get into if you don't know anything about it. Like, everybody loves the Kentucky Derby. Everybody watches, the keeps an eye on the Triple Crown. But how do you get in and own a horse? Like, it's almost impossible to and feel good about it. Like, a lot of people get in and then they get right out because of their experience.
Well, we've seen it in the past. I think it's getting better. One thing I will say about Mike Rapoli that I've always admired, because he had all the money in the world when he got in, he actually started by claiming horses. And he started by trying to get a large number. He started learning the game at the lowest level and built up his knowledge until he went from quantity, and he had multiple owners titles in New York and New Jersey. And I think he's the only guy ever to lead both, to be the winningest owner in New York and New Jersey in the same year. And he went from those kind of numbers to the quality. Now, I kind of feel like you're more focused on that quality. Like, you want to bring in owners at a real high level and try at least try to bring them in at a real high level.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very careful at not getting too high a level. Like, I think we've done a lot of data on this, and I think there's a kind of a comfort level when you buy horses that works financially.
Yeah.
I think that when you start chasing stallion deals and buying $1 million yearlings, that's a different model. I mean, that's kind of that's the Avengers model, right?
Yeah.
So we're not that. I think we're somewhere
somewhere in between.
In between, and I got into this sport by buying, getting into fillies, and had some success with fillies. So I think there's this happy medium in there where you don't get into super expensive horses, but you do you are buying quality.
You're aiming for stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where the fun is for the owners.
Right.
So
and with fillies, you have some residual value.
Right.
Even if they don't win, if they have a half sibling that wins a graded stake, there's always that possibility.
There's always a little kickback there, but there's there's this delta of having fun and then investing money. And I tell people that Icon Racing it's buying season tickets to your favorite sports franchise. It's taking the family to Disneyland. It's going to your buddies to Vegas, and it's buying lotto tickets.
Right. That's a great way to look at it.
At the end of the day, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
And if you look at it like that, whatever happens at the end, you're not going to be disappointed.
Right.
Because it's going to be, this game can take you places. It's a great family experience. You can take your young kids to Disneyland. You can take your adult kids to the racetrack.
Right. And
it's a great bonding experience. The other thing I'll add to kind of how I see the sport. In professional sports, you win and lose with your teammates.
Yeah.
Right, and you do it on the field. And if you do win a big game, you guys go crazy. You jump around, and you do it with your teammates. And then you wave up to your family and friends up in the stands. And then maybe you see them in the tunnel 15 or 20 minutes later. But the magic's gone.
Right.
The moment's lost. You can try to recreate it, but you can't. It's just one of those things. You have to celebrate in the moment. With horse racing, you win and lose with the people you want to be around, your family, your friends, your mom, your dad, your kids. It creates this moment and this bond that's everlasting. It's life changing. And if you can get experience what we did at the Belmont, obviously that's a pretty good example. It was caught on tape, but something like that. But even a race like a Tampa Bay Downs, like a claiming race on a Tuesday afternoon.
That's somebody's derby.
Yeah, that's
somebody's derby.
That is something that you will have forever, and a moment that you can cherish and relive with those people you did it with right then and there. And it's not like anything else. I mean, you can't get that type of feeling in any other sport, and I think that's what's so cool. So people that that have money to invest and put towards vacations, or they take trips, or they do whatever. If you're looking for that excitement and this once in a lifetime opportunity to experience something with your family.
Yeah.
I mean, look no further, man. We got it all right here. And what we're doing with Icon is $100,000 partners and as many as we can take. And we're going to go buy as many racehorses as we can. We got professionals around us making these decisions, and I've got a third-party auditor that's watching these people do that. So,
well, how many of your have you roped in any of your former teammates? Anybody from the baseball world, and who most notably?
So I don't know how many of these guys want me to mention names.
Okay, then don't.
That's something we got.
Don't give out names, but
we got to work through.
But
yeah, so some of these guys have gotten in. Some of these guys are interested, want to see how the first year goes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys are following some guys I don't know that have called, that have gotten in. The funny part about athletes that I've learned is if you're a smart athlete, you hire somebody smart to manage your money, right? So when you get these guys fired up and you get them interested, they're like, all right, send the deck, send the info over to my guy, my financial guy.
Yeah.
And the financial guy will lose his job if he tells his client to invest
in a racehorse.
Yeah.
That's it.
So it's
anything that eats while you sleep is not a good investment,
so
right?
There's some things we got to work through, but there's a lot of people that want to experience horse racing, that want to get into horse racing, that don't know how.
Yeah.
And we've created a platform now. We've got a website. We've got the podcast. We've got all the socials to create this community. For people to get up in the morning, you get on your phone, what are my horses doing?
Yeah.
We're gonna try to put cameras in the barns.
Yeah.
And just create this unbelievable experience for people, because I think this sport is so much fun.
Yeah.
And it can be something unlike anything else that you can do. And obviously $100,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But over the course of a couple years, depending on how you look at it, it can be a very sound investment for entertainment purposes.
So I've been in horse racing my whole life. I grew up at the racetrack. So you say you take your adult kids to the track. My parents took me there when I was 6 months old. So I grew up going to the track. My dad was involved
It's
with the
Disney
racing.
World for you.
Yeah, that is my Disney World. I'd much rather go to the racetrack than Disney World.
I'm with you.
My first foray into horse ownership was 2 years ago. So that was the first time I ever got in on that side of it.
Okay.
And even being in the sport my whole life, that experience of owning a racehorse, I didn't understand it until I did it.
Right.
And I own a tiny percent. I'm in with a partnership with CJ Thoroughbred. So, you're right. If you can get someone there, if you can get them in that, that's the selling point. If you can play the game, and that's the good thing about horse racing. There's Sheikh Mohammed, and when the Queen of England was arrived. You're bidding against them on the high end, but you can go to Los Alamitos on a Saturday night and claim a thoroughbred for $2,500, right?
Sure.
And you can be in the game.
You can be in the game.
And that's a beautiful thing.
I think there's two parts to that. When I had Dornoch, I owned 10% of them, and obviously, I felt like I owned 100% of them.
Right.
That was my experience. And the detractors, there's all these trolls online nowadays. Everybody's got a soapbox to say.
I hate them all except for Griffin Johnson.
Griff's the man. So one of the funny parts things I saw, somebody sent me this, and there was somebody run their mouth talking shit, and they said, what a clown! This dude owns 10% of Dornoch and acts like he owns 100%. I was like, yes.
Yes.
That's
the point.
That's the point. And that's my point with Icon Racing. You don't need to own the whole horse. You
Right.
can own 1% and still have the same experience.
Right.
And that's what's so great about these partnerships. For me, I think we need more people in horse racing. We need more owners. We need more tracks, more horses. This sport should be expanding, not contracting. And I think the way you do that is through ownership. Make
Right.
it easier for people to own horses.
Right.
Now, what my racehorse is doing is brilliant.
Right.
And then bringing those type of people in, and that's a tough model because of the SEC regulations.
Yeah.
If you look at Australia and what Australia's done, and how horse racing is thriving down there because they've made it easy to own horses.
Right.
So I think that's my dream with Icon, and honestly, if I can bring new people into the sport and get them into Icon, and my hope is that at some point, I'd love for them to stay with us at Icon, but at some point they say, you know what, this is so great, I'm going to go do this on my own.
Right.
And they get their own racing team, they get their own LLC, and they go do it on their own. If they want to partner with us, great. If they want to stay with us, great.
Right.
But I believe in the sport so much that I hope people, they use us as a trampoline to become their own create their own partnerships will do whatever they want in horse racing.
Partnerships are undoubtedly they're the present of the sport and they're the future of the sport, and I think
100%.
you're going to see a lot of them. All right, we've got a game for you to play.
All right.
We're going to play a little game. I used to have a podcast as well. It was canceled. I don't know how you get a podcast canceled. You can just do it and post it. But
I can't believe we haven't been canceled yet.
no, well, it's not for a lack of effort. This is called Cinco de Cinco. This is 5 questions. There are right answers. You ready for this? For every correct answer, I'm going to give you 2 Benjamins, all right? You got that? I know you've got more money and you don't need it, but it'll be good.
Well, okay, I like this.
Okay. So,
I feel like this cigar was probably about that much.
it wasn't cheap. Sorry, I had to put it on your tab. First question. You played baseball with Chase Utley. He is a graduate of the same high school as my 2 older children, Long Beach Polytechnic High.
Poly.
Yeah.
Milton Bradley, too.
Oh, well, that was my question. Name 2 other Major League Baseball players who played at Poly.
So Milton's one, and there's a few more.
There's one very famous one.
Professional athletes or big leaguers?
No, MLB players. There's about 100 NFL players, but there's one of the all-time greats, one of the greatest hitters of all time went to Poly. There's a beer named after him. There's a beer named after his batting average.
Ted Williams?
I'm giving you one more guess.
I have no idea.
Tony Gwynn.
Oh, God, I didn't know that.
Tony Gwynn, yeah. It's a very famous high school. Snoop Dogg, Cameron Diaz,
Yeah.
Billie Jean King, Willie McGinnis.
I mean, one of the greatest high schools ever to go to.
Yeah.
That's
My 2 older kids, both
They both
Jackrabbits.
go there?
They
Both
graduated.
went
They both went there. Okay, you've got
Overworn.
You've got a great head of hair here. Who had better flow in their prime? Better, and there is a right answer here. Better flow in their prime, Justin Turner or Johnny Damon?
Well, Justin Turner, do you remember that movie, Masters of the Universe?
Yes.
Yeah, Justin Turner to me, he looked like the redheaded troll on Masters of the Universe. So I'm going to go with Johnny Damon on this one.
Correct. Johnny Damon he was the original flow guy, man.
And I love JT. It was one of those things. It's kind of a clubhouse inside joke, but that was, if you look side by side, it's close.
He's on my favorite team now. I'm a huge Cubs fan. I grew up in Chicago. All right, here's a question about me. How old was I when I went to my first Kentucky Derby?
1.
45 years old.
Oh my God! Well, you said you were 6 months when you went to your first horse race.
I'm 47. I never made it to because when you work in horse racing, it's hard to get to the Derby. Because the Derby is not just the biggest day at Churchill Downs, it's the biggest day at every racetrack in the country because that's when they have. So when I was little and I was working at Wyoming Downs, and then when I was working at TVG back in the day before we were FanDuel TV, I was on like the F Troop. So my first Derby was Mage.
No kidding.
Yeah, my first Derby was Mage.
So
okay.
Hold on, I got a good Mage story. So I'm in. I end up in the paddock for the Oaks that year, and I'd owned Dornoch, so I had that. So Bob Edwards comes over and says, "Hey, I want to introduce you to people up here, and they're in one of the winner's circle suites for the Oaks." So I go up there, and we're talking, and then the lady from Churchill Downs comes over and says, "You guys want to buy one of the owner's circle suites for tomorrow? We had somebody cancel, and they're not coming now." And Bob's like, "You want to get in?" I was like, "Yeah, we got 8 people." So we jumped in. So we were in the 20th suite. We're all the way down to the end. And then Mage wins, which is Dornoch's full brother.
Right.
So we act like we won.
Yeah.
And people are congratulating us.
Yeah.
We went so crazy.
We went so nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what we do. And then the next year we're back with Dornoch. We're in the 1.
Yeah.
And then here we are with Flying Mohawk. We'll be there in the 11 box.
That's
so
amazing.
3 years in a row. It's pretty crazy.
That's awesome. All right, you're fairly tall. I'm going off your listed playing height on Baseball Reference. Who is taller, you or world famous TVG host Todd Schrupp?
I have no idea how tall Todd is, but
He's tall.
I'll say me.
You are correct. He's 6'3" 3/4. I was gonna say Kurt Hoover because he's 6'7", but I went with Todd as well.
I had a 50-50 chance.
You had a
right
50-50
there.
shot. All right, last question, and there is a right answer. Who has the most swag in horse racing? And I want you to think about it. Who has the most swag in horse racing?
That's easy. Ivan Rome. No one can touch him.
No, you're wrong.
Who?
You're wrong. D. Wayne Lucas. He's got.
Wait, well, I mean, it depends how you. What kind of swag are we talking? I mean,
We're talking one of the greatest trainers of all time with 4 Derby wins.
Yeah,
he's kicking their ass at age 88 in the Preakness last year.
Hey, okay.
And
He's got that cowboy swag. He's got that.
Back in the day, it wasn't just cowboy swag. He had the $10,000, David August suits. He would fly the helicopter into the training track at Del Mar.
I'm so new to horse racing. I don't go. My history doesn't go back.
His history is great.
I had to go with the guy on the Netflix show that's, got the, he's got.
Do you know Iveron pretty well?
No, I don't know him at all. I just that was.
Can I tell you something? I've gotten to know Iveron really well over the last few years. Him and his wife Jules, they have this, they're very showy and flashy. The nicest humans I've literally ever met in my life.
That's what I've heard.
They're the sweetest. They're having fun. They're doing what they're doing. They don't really care what you think.
Clearly,
but they're not they don't vibe anyone. They don't make anyone feel bad. They're just out for a good time, and they are the sweetest people
that's
of
great.
all time.
But
yeah.
I had to laugh at the show when they were. I don't know how they made it seem. It was one of the first 2 episodes where they make it seem like these people are just so outlandish and off the charts.
Yeah.
And then they send the clip to the Ferrari pulling up next to the jet.
Yeah.
And at that point you're like, Jesus, these people.
Yeah.
And then Jon Stewart
Stewart
gets
gets
out.
Yeah, it was Jon Stewart. Anyway, all right, that's going to do it, man. I really appreciate you joining me here. This was a great time. And first and foremost, good luck in the Derby with Flying Mohawk.
Hey, we're here. It's going to be a fun week. I know I said this before, but this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. A $72,000 turf horse was never our intentions of running in the Kentucky Derby, but this dude has been great. He's training like a gorilla. He loves to race. He loves being a racehorse, and Whit thinks the world of him. And I think we're live. We'll see what happens.
Oh, by the way, I got to get you your prize money. How many did you get right? You get 2 right? You got 2 questions right.
I got 1 for sure. Was there
got 2? All right. Can I get my bankroll, please? Here we go. We got your Benjamins right here. So you got 1. That's 1.5. 2. I'll give you 3 because you were a good sport. All right. There you go, my friend.
There we go.
Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jayson Werth. Thanks for joining us here on Blowin' Smoke from the Louisville Thoroughbred Society.